So we are finally getting into that anxiety-ridden moment where things are about to turn absolutely crazy after months of just peace and quiet and planning. And I want to take you around the garden, show you what's going on here in mid to late February, and then also talk a little bit about some other updates going on around here. If you're new to this channel, my name is Tiffany. I am starting Christenhelmfarms, which is a microflower farm located in the southern region of Arizona. We are in Zone 8 and also sometimes teeter into Zone 9. Alright, so before we kick it off into going around the garden to show you what's been going on, I did want to talk a little bit about a update about the farm in general. And so what I did is I reached out to the local farmers market here in the small town that I reside in. I wanted to get some more information and just kind of get my name out there to say who I am, what I'm planning on doing. Flowers are a little finicky. As gardeners know, you don't quite know when to expect them. You can't necessarily pinpoint down a date and say, okay, I'm going to have tulips on this day or I'm going to have marigolds on this one. It just doesn't work like that. And so I just wanted to reach out and make myself known. And the coordinator of our little farmers market was very nice and gave some information and was very excited about the prospect of having flowers out here because, to be honest, there's just not a market out here at all. I made that connection and hopefully I will be having enough product here soon to be able to start selling within, I would say, I don't know, probably 4 months from this video, maybe hopefully sooner, fingers crossed. But again, it's all hinged upon nature and pest and all of that fun stuff as I'm learning in this first year. The other difficult aspect is that I do know that other flower farms out there, if they are doing market bouquets or arrangements, typically what they will do is they will purchase flowers from neighboring farms in their local area to help out. They might have a wholesaler they can run to for things, but in my case, I do not have that option. There's just nothing here. There's no market here. There are florists who operate, but I can almost guarantee you they are purchasing wholesale items probably clear up from Phoenix at the closest large-scale wholesale market, or else they're getting them shipped in. And so it is a little frustrating and disappointing because I don't have an extra leg to stand on in that point. I'm pretty much self-reliant on myself, which is what my end goal would be anyways, but it's going to make it difficult in trying to navigate and figure out what dates I'm going to have things available. And so that's something we're going to figure out this year, since obviously, again, this is my first year starting this. And so right now I am trying to pinpoint all of those things down, but I did want to go ahead and make those connections with the farmers market to go ahead and start getting some of those other things checked off of my list as well. Coming from an organizing and planning background for festivals on an arts background, I know how those things work, and I know that I have to start small and then work my way up. There's no rhyme or reason why a large-scale metropolitan farmers market would immediately let in a small fish like myself with no previous experience selling flowers or growing flowers. And so obviously I've got to prove myself and set things up, get pictures, show that I can provide product, and grow those connections, grow that community in order to be able to just have proof, essentially. And so that is what this first year is going to be. It's going to be establishing those connections. It's going to be trying to get everything in order to make me look like a true farm and not just somebody who's pulling weeds out of the ground and throwing them into a vase. And so that was exciting news. I just wanted to share about potential retail prospect. So yeah, so anyway, so let's go ahead and kick into the garden tour, and I'll take you around and show you what's going on, and also check out our grow room to see what is up and coming, and you'll get to see some of my crazy experiments along the way.
Alright, so first up is this yarrow that is just chomping at the bit to get out of these planters, and hopefully they will be planted soon in the yarrow bed. Next up is the herbal bed, starting with that calendula in the front here. As you can see, some got some frost damage, but they're still hanging in there. The bee balm is doing well. It also kind of made a comeback from the really hard freezes we had, and it is starting now to get some height to it, which is good to see. And then we have just a little bit of that chamomile just hanging in there, almost on its way out.
So I want to talk a little bit about some very bizarre experiments that I've been doing. So one of those is that I was looking at Phoenix planting times, and I unfortunately mistook dahlia tubers as planting dahlia seeds. And I have a bunch of dahlias that were sitting in my, well, not a bunch. It was just a partial of the packet that I bought. So I'm not out of anything really. It's an experiment, like what I said. Back up even further from that, I've always been under the impression that dahlias don't do great out here anyways because of the heat. And so anyway, so I wanted to start some earlier just to see what I could get, and then also starting them from an inside perspective. I've got all these dahlias now that are bursting at the seams after being repotted, and they're almost starting to bud, and some are starting to bud out. And so I could either leave them inside in my grow room and just let them do their thing and flower and be kind of short and stunted, or I could experiment outside with planting them extremely early. While we will still have some frost until mid-April, we're not going to have any super severe deep freezes like what we had about a month ago, and we're beyond that now, so that we will get the occasional few days maybe of like a light frost. So what I did is I'm doing an experiment, and I put them outside in one of my beds closest to our house. That way it could maybe get some of this residual heat from our furnace and heater. So it's my herbal bed. So I've got my bee balm, I have chamomile and things like calendula and things like that growing in there. So I decided to plant it in a big open space where I had some mint that didn't do well. One of the factors I'm contending with is frost. So I can still have some light frost, and that can still take out dahlias. They are meant to be planted in very warm, not hot, but warm temps. And so they're a tender annual. So I had to get creative, knowing that just my frost cloth is probably not going to cut it. And so I put some hoops out around it. I put the one layer of frost cloth that I just had sitting around. I'm clipping that on there. But I had thought the other day of incandescent lighting. And incandescent lighting gives off heat. It's not LED lights. LEDs don't give any type of heat off at all anymore. And it's hard to find incandescent lighting anymore outside of like your standard 60-watt bulb or whatever that goes into a typical light fixture. I'm talking about string lights. And so I found some patio incandescent bulbs still lingering at Hobby Lobby. So I picked those up and put those in there because those will give out a heat in the night from those incandescent bulbs. And my hope is that it will keep enough heat within that little mini tunnel that I've created in order to kind of keep these guys just barely hanging on, at least enough until flowering. And so that is my whole experiment, is seeing if I can get them to flower. Am I going to do this every year? No. I learned my lesson that I planted way too early. I did the same thing with just a batch of Gomphrena as well. And those started to bud out. I clip those in hopes that they'll branch out, and then maybe I can get those planted out somewhere else. If I lose them, again, it's no big deal. I literally planted like just a single little tray of them, so it wasn't like I had hundreds. It's not a big deal. I still have plenty of seeds for my season, but this is just a pure experiment. And so anyways, back to the footage.
So this is what I have left of my bok choy that was planted that had been stepped on pretty much by all the neighborhood cats and Vinny. In this bed you'll see some crispy carrots that made it through the hard freeze, and then in the middle there is my potato plant, which is also looking pretty rough, but I'm looking for a new growth, which I was able to find. That's why it's really important not to get rid of all that dead frost damage. It helps protect the new stuff coming in underneath. I have some florets left on my broccoli plants and side shoots. And to my surprise, I had a nice little head of cauliflower coming in. In this back brassica bed, it's a little bit shady, so there's a little bit of growth still going on, but not much. I've got Brussels sprouts, cabbage, some broccoli plants there in the back that are just hanging on. These are the metal beds that I've tore out of the flower garden, given to Paul so that he can have them for veggie gardening this spring and summer. And on to flowers, we have the rudbeckia that I planted last week. And you'll see that some of these guys are looking just a little bit rough around the edges, but then there's some of their neighbors nearby that actually are looking pretty fantastic. The next bed over, I was able to plant out some of the snapdragons that were ready to get out of the grow room. And so same story here. Some are looking good and making it through. Others are feeling a little rough, I think, due to some of the high winds we've had recently and also some of those low night temps still moving their way through. This guy has just not been happy since I've transplanted him, but his neighbors are doing just fine. This bed was a former brassica bed, but nothing was really thriving in here, so I pulled it all out and went ahead and planted my bulbs in here. So I have alliums, I have freesia, and I have this little standalone cabbage that was looking a little extra happy, so I left him. My yarrow bed is a mess, y'all. It's not doing well, so I'm really glad I have some transplants to throw in here. And finally, we have Paul's potato tire experiment. We have a bunch of tires we're going to stack up, and it's good to see these potatoes finally coming through. So we'll just keep stacking the dirt up, and hopefully we'll have a nice big old thing of potatoes at the end of the season. Going inside into the grow room, this is what we have going on so far. So here's some of those dahlias that I saved back and did not plant out. Next to that, I have my butterfly snapdragons that have just peeked through. Back there are my tomato transplants and my pepper transplants. In this bowl are some mimosa tree seeds that are soaking. I have another tray of Potomac snapdragons. In the back is my tarragon that's on its way out. Back there are more dahlias. And then up front here are some pepper seeds that were just started the day before. Kind of hard to see here, but this is my tray of small eucalyptus seedlings that were started. Behind that is my unruly alyssum that is also on its way out. Next to that in the back, you can see that one dahlia plant that I have, and it is about ready to put on a show here pretty soon. And then all around that are my eucalyptus that were originally started, so I'm just trying to keep these guys as happy as possible until we get some warmer weather through here and I can get them transplanted out. This is the gomphrena I'd mentioned earlier, where I had to kind of clip the buds that were coming in on them. And then way in the back, I've got my echinacea, probably the slowest seed that I have ever started. But, you know, I'm really hoping it makes it. Here's some fig trees that were repotted. In the middle there, I've got some snapdragon propagated from other plants. And then this whole tray is propagated snapdragons. Look how amazing those monster ones look in the front. I am so excited to get those transplanted out to see how they do. But everybody else is looking really good. Next to them, I started some sea holly the other day, so that will take a while for those to get germinated and started. And then I went ahead and started my bee balm since it's a longer growing duration for those. But that's pretty much it as far as updates. I really appreciate you watching. Take care, my friends, and we'll see you next time.